recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Conrad Thompson, how we doing today, pal? You know, folks, I'm going to dive right in here. We got a lot to talk about. I'm not going to. Hey, but Conrad, we should have had the cameras rolling, the audio rolling. We just, as they say down south, chewed the cud for about 45 minutes. We caught up on all kinds of things, didn't we? We should have had it rolling, but
I'm glad we didn't. We'd both be kicked out of wrestling forever and ever. Amen. Hey, Blood and Guts is coming up this Wednesday. Tomorrow night, you'll be able to see AEW, AEWTIX.com, TD Garden in Boston. And as I understand it, fresh out of Boston, man, you're going to the left coast. Is the rumor true? Are you on some WrestleQuest business at the San Diego Comic-Con?
We are getting down to the nitty gritty. I think we're well over 100 episodes. We just passed 100 episodes. Rampage here at My World, we're just over 100. Yeah. So anyway, we're 114 or 15. But anyway, but yeah. So from almost podcast one, we were talking about WrestleQuest, and we're almost to the finish line, to the launch. August 8th, as you know. But as you just said, the West Coast, San Diego Comic-Con, doing a panel discussion to talk about WrestleQuest, the momentum with Skybound Games and the entire team. This is all new to me, kind of like the baseball was a couple of years ago, new frontier. Conrad, you've got me onto all kinds of things, but no, the gaming industry, it's massive. I got a good education back in the early TNA days with Midway and understanding the gaming business from the business side. So I said my first foray, but on this level, it certainly is. And Japanese role-playing game, but WrestleQuest, the social media publicity has cranked up, and all the gaming sites and all that kind of stuff. But Mega Cat Studios, my partner in Moonsault Digital, we are rocking and rolling and going to San Diego Comic-Con, and going to be on a panel talking about just kind of the integration of professional wrestling and gaming and going back to the 80s and 90s, because that's kind of what this entire game's built around. Legends from the 80s and 90s going on. It's a very, very much a role-playing game.
And if you're looking to meet some of the legends from the 80s and 90s, can I recommend StarCast? Tickets are on sale now. Grab your bracelets, and we've even got bundles for All Out tickets. Some of the best tickets you can get. They're all a part of our StarCast block. They're on sale now. StarCast.com. Going to be happening on Friday, August 1st through Friday, September 1st.
Yes.
Sunday, September 3rd. Labor Day weekend, of course, All Out coming to you live from Chicago. And we are back at the spiritual home, I guess, of StarCast, where it all started, the Hyatt Regency in Schaumburg, Illinois. You can go ahead and lock down a room there and be a part of the festivities on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Jeff, before we clicked record, I gave you some spoilers. Some folks we're going to be announcing, and I don't want to necessarily say it here, but we will be making announcements throughout the week. But we've got some pretty big tricks up our sleeve on this one, don't we?
That's what I was just talking to as you were doing your infamous open of My World. But I thought to myself, the conversation we just had. God, I don't want this because it's not a plug. I really wish cameras would have been rolling, folks, and the audio been rolling, because the conversation we just had, and Conrad was laying out, I can't say the surprises because they're going to be announced, but the content on the table at StarCast. When you look back over the history of StarCast, the very first one, and I don't want to start naming names because one will seem more important than the other, but I remember when you said, hey, what do you think about a eat and greet? And I'm like, that's a hell of a concept. Anyway, just all the different things. And of course, last year, StarCast being in my hometown and the attempted murder went down. But anyway, we talked about it last week, but no, just all the things that have happened at StarCast. And now the 6-year go around, Conrad, I didn't really think, you could top yourself. I'll just say that. I didn't think you could top yourself. But what is on the table kind of just blows my mind, pal.
Well,
So I'm glad I'm going to be in town. You know, our tickets just went on sale. We've got Hoffman Estates Wednesday, Dynamite, United Center Collision on Saturday, and then of course the pay-per-view Sunday, and that's coming off the record-smashing, record-breaking Wembley Stadium event the prior Sunday for. But no, StarCast is going to be big. Have the bracelets, the top bracelet, they're sold out, right? Or close?
No, there's still some available. We've got bundles for ringside seats, Jeff, to All Out. So go check it out right now, STARRCAST.com. It's different from any other wrestling convention you've ever been to, in that we've got a whole slate of panel discussions, lots of interactive stuff going on out in the tent as well. And of course, all the meet and greets you can shake a stick at, including some folks that you've never seen before, and some pretty interactive opportunities. Just stay tuned to us on Twitter, StarCast Events on Twitter.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
It's not signed, sealed, delivered, folks, but there is one. Yeah, this is easy to say. There is one legendary talent. I mean, I don't throw that term around. Legit legendary tip top talent that's never done an autograph session.
Yep.
That's safe to say, Conrad?
It is safe to say. And I'll tell you this, Jeff, there's one that's near and dear to your heart. I didn't spill the beans on before we got going, because I want you to see the tweet and then text it to me that I didn't tell you about it, that you're upset. So it's a surprise just for you.
That's easy for Double J. Woo. Okay.
Stay tuned. StarCast Events on Twitter is where we're keeping all of our announcements. Come join us. It's going to be a blast. StarCast.com coming to you Labor Day. Let's jump into our topic today, man. Hey, we've got a big one.
I told you I was going to joke you. I'm just going to randomly do woos during the deal. Did you see the ESPYs?
Oh, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because not only did I see it, but I think the whole world saw it when my man, Paul Walter Hauser,
thank you, Paul Walter Hauser.
I know you like to say Hausen. What is that, a Danhausen thing for you?
It just rolled off the tongue, because at the time I was kicking Danhausen's ass. I don't know why it all comes together, but he was involved. I mean, I don't know. We were having fun, but it almost rolls off the tongue now. It doesn't even sound real to say Paul Walter Hauser. Walter Hauser, one word. Paul Walter, two words. Paul Walter Hauser.
By the way, legitimately, not only did he win a Golden Globe that you are very familiar with, but he was nominated for an Emmy for Blackbird. Like, that's a big deal. And by the way, my man rocked the coolest tuxedo that's ever been rocked since Hulk Hogan wore one to the Slammies in the 80s to the ESPYs. And well, without further ado, we'll have Marcus roll that footage now so you can take a look at our pal Paul doing a little name drop, if you will.
What's up, Paul? You all right? This your first time meeting professional athletes?
A little nervous, yeah. Jeff Jarrett doesn't count as a professional athlete, I know that. Does Ric Flair count?
Woo!
Woo! There it is. I haven't met him. I was just wondering if he counted.
So how about that, Jeff? Getting a shout out and then one right behind it for the Nature Boy. What's old is new again. I love that, man.
It's funny how my phone, when that went down, just like text, like, did you hear that? Do you hear that? And I'm like, oh, anyway, I was a little busy, but when I picked up my phone, I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then a buddy of mine screen grabbed it and sent it. And I mean, that leech is still trying to get the Last Outlaw rub, right, Connie? I mean, he's still, what was that, January, February? I made him famous. I mean, he's now Emmy nominated.
Yeah.
The Last Outlaw when I crowned him. But no, we're joking, we're having fun, but his tux did look pretty cool.
It was cool.
But I say all that to say, now the ESPYs, here's where I was going with. This is my inside baseball, or where my third generation of my promoter mindset. When Paul dropped the line about me, but then the Ric Flair and then the woo. Did you hear the audience?
Oh, they love it. They're with the woo, man. The woo's over.
Yeah, you're the one who taught me about that a little bit more deep. But no, it's just wrestling. We talk about it, and your entire library of all the podcasts you do, you know, a lot of people, oh, it's niche this and niche that. It is, but it's also, dude, it's pop culture. The entire arena was wooing. So I chuckled.
I gave Marcus the heads up I was going to do this before we got going. Marcus is going to get that photo ready for me now. Do you know that today, in fact, is the 1-year anniversary of where we dropped episode 2 on the little video series building towards Ric Flair's last match? This is when we announced and revealed what the match would look like, who the opponents were going to be for Ric Flair's last match. And of course, it involved that brutal parking lot scene. What a picture we're looking at here, Jeff. That's a year ago today. A year ago today, man, our phones were blowing up, were they not?
Just cradling the Nature Boy's head like a stuck pig.
You know, what's funny is we're sort of in the building discussing beforehand, hey, so what are we looking for here? And you guys are working out the physicality. And I'm like, now, Jeff, towards the end, I want you to like pick his head up like it was a lion and you were a big game hunter, and it'll probably be bloody. And Rick goes, oh yeah, it'll be bloody. I never imagined what it would actually look like. It looks more like a mob movie than a wrestling angle, does it not? I mean, he looks like he's getting ready to be buried in a cornfield at the end of Casino. It was brutal.
Love it. Me and my man, my partner, Jay Lethal.
I mean, who would have thought you guys would be the uncrowned AEW tag team champions?
Here you go. Fast forward 12 months later, and who'd have thunk? Last Outlaw, and no, it's life is crazy, man.
It is crazy. And you know what? It really got crazy for you in 2017. That's our topic today. We're talking today about Slammiversary 2017. What a big show it was. And it is a crazy time to even think about what was going on in wrestling, much less TNA, much less in your life. Let's pick it up where we left off. The Observer would talk about June of 2017, saying that there was a title change over in Mumbai, and it was Sanjay Dutt winning the X title from Low Ki. Quote, that makes sense since they were in India, where Dutt is popular because of his heritage, and they've been doing a storyline where they played that up for as long as Dutt has been with the company. He had never won the X title. They did a big celebration similar to what WWE did with the dancers with Jinder Mahal. But the Impact angle and plans for this were all made in March before WWE even started the Mahal push. Now, we should talk about that because you guys, as I understand it, got a pretty good deal to go over on behalf of Sony and shoot in India. And we knew at the time, we had been hearing, man, YouTube numbers are off the charts in India. They just cannot get enough of our wrestling content. And these plans are put into place long before Jinder Mahal becomes the man, but almost like there was once a race for space. Now there was a race to India, and you guys have this in your back pocket with Sanjay Dutt. What do you remember about how all this came to be?
Conrad, before we recorded, and then I think 2 weeks ago, when I think the first round of notes that came out about this, because we've had a kind of a wacky summer. And oh, by the way, what kind of crazy feedback I got off Ask Jeff Anything.
It was fun, wasn't it?
I'm telling you, Conrad, we may need to look into doing that, because I know we hit 30 topics, or not topics, but questions. Just the feedback was fantastic. But anyway, I was trying to jar my memory on the last big international deal that I was a part of. And I'm going all the way back to 2012, 2013, Conrad. We signed, I believe, a 7-year deal with Sony. Okay. Sony. Okay. Right now, WWE is getting paid $55 million a year, something. Wrap your head around that, Conrad. From an international market,
over $1 million a week.
They're delivering something that's being produced in America, so there's not any real incremental cost, because it's massive. Anyway, India, I could spend multiple episodes on the Indian market, but what was really cool for me was that deal was signed 2012, 13, right in there. I leave, I resign, leave. Me and Toby try that, we tried to bat back. We've covered all of that. And then Global Force. And then here we are, 2017. I go back with Impact. We're in the process of merging the two brands, the two companies, all that. And then the India deal came up because I think it was either year 4 or 5 in the deal is that contractually we had to go shoot television in the Indian market by contract. So who would have ever thought left that whole, Jeff and Impact parted ways, and now I'm back and being a part of, I say this diplomatically, we've already covered many times, the brand went through some tough times with Corrigan, lawsuit and all that. So here I am with Anthem and so many things going in so many different directions. But one of the main deals was we've got to get to Indian produced TV because we were looking at re-up. At the time, it was the largest revenue generator, not just in international, but across the board in Impact. It was a really, really big deal, a really important deal. So, again, Anthem was brand new to the business. I mean, brand new to the business, and visas and the process to get all the ducks in the row. And we're going to go over there and we're going to shoot TV. And, right there in Mumbai, Film City, we stayed at the Westin, which is really close, beautiful, 5-star, 6-star hotel, great food, all that. But just going over there and shooting that was fantastic. But at the exact same time, WWE, their renewal rights, and they were going in different directions. And all of a sudden they said, oh, wow, Impact's going on. We got to hammer down. So I think in a lot of ways it was a reaction. I don't remember all the specifics because in the notes, I don't know how much detailed, and you may have a little more than me, but Jinder Mahal was kind of pulled off. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll say this. He was kind of pulled off the sideline and thrust into.
Yeah, he became a made guy very quickly. Yeah.
I mean, I love Jinder and a hell of a talent, but all of a sudden it kind of came out of nowhere. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Now the whole world's looking in India, which chuckled me, but it is also okay. Now the stakes have upped and
everything. You're on the right track too, right?
Oh gosh.
It's not like y'all see something that they don't. Everybody sees it. And it's like, okay, now it's a race, right?
Yeah. But anyway, to go over there, we started this conversation with Sanjay winning the title, but I mean, there's so many fun stories, in America, when you rig lights, Conrad, you got to be tethered and OSHA rules and everything. Over there in Film City in Mumbai, you have literally wooden ladders up against, they weren't tethered. Those guys would shimmy up. And because when we got there, they're still building the set. And it was a fantastic experience. The episode we're talking about today, Slammiversary 2017, one of my top 5 as far as being a part of putting things together, one of my favorite shows in my entire career. But India was a huge part of kind of getting things, we did tapings in Orlando, I think in January and in February, March, and India. When is our India trip, Conrad? That was another thing. I was trying to just get the dates because go ahead. When's this India trip month-wise? Because it was like our 3rd or 4th taping.
You're at the end of May, I believe.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Call it May 30th.
Yeah. So I say that to say that me and the I say part of the team that I brought back and the new team, all of us together, but Jeff and Anthem, we were just really coming together these first couple of tapings, and then India was thrown in the middle of it. It was highly stressful, but as I look back on it, I remember it was I loved it. It was a cool time. I was, in and out of fighting my demons. I had no idea at the time how bad they were, but throw that in the mix as well. So India was quite the trip.
We should mention that Meltzer's writing that this is an awesome crowd. They're really into it. Maybe people don't know exactly what to expect when they go over there. But the word Meltzer was hearing is, hey, this might come across better on TV than even our Orlando crowd. This might come across as more major league, if you will. So you had to be feeling pretty good about this Sony 6 arrangement, right?
Yes. And so, look, the Ring Ka King experience blew me and others away at how much. Look, Bollywood is their version of Hollywood. They know how to produce content that looks slick and everything. Well, Film City is kind of like Studio City of Hollywood. It's their area. And you drive in the gates and you weave, and there's up on this one hill, there's one metal building, and on another hill, there's 3 or 4. Well, we were up on top of this hill, and a studio that was really nothing more than a big metal building. And they built the bleachers and basically built the studio out. They made an impact zone, if you will, and that's what they refer to it as. They're going to build their version of the impact zone, and they did that outside all the different trailers with talent and production and catering and all that kind of stuff that went with it. But what was cool about Meltzer's note on the crowd was, Conrad, about, I don't know, 150 yards away from our metal building, they had these 3 or 4 tents that were empty when we got there. And then about, I don't know, 90 minutes before showtime, you start seeing these buses show up, and they're the crowd and they're the extras. But the extras were filled with, okay, you're going to be on TV, you got to be lively. But as a part of the extras, there were folks in there that absolutely love wrestling. And that was what we found in Ring Ka King. Once we did 1 or 2 days, then all of a sudden the extras, there were true wrestling fans engaged in it. So it was really a great experience on that, long story short is we're performing in front of hot crowds, like red hot crowds.
It's super fun whenever you get to introduce wrestling to a new crowd like that, and they're responding so strongly. And now we're sort of catering the show to them a little bit. Like, we talked about Sanjay Dutt. There's going to be a match in here where Low Key gets his eye busted open. Sanjay is going to come out with an eye patch. They're turning his eye injury into a storyline. Sanjay is going to cut a promo about, now you know what it's like, and there's no homicide here to save you. We're in India, blah, blah, blah. Here comes EC3. He's going to cut a promo. He's got a translator with him, and he's going to say his name is Ethan Singh III, and he's leaning into his Indian heritage, and then he starts to insult the Indian people. The translator refuses to do that. He starts to beat up the translator. Here comes James Storm. We see Josh Matthews take the headsets off and actually wrestle as a wrestler, refuse to release a hold. Eventually people are coming to make the saves, and somehow along the way we get this Bobby Lashley, Alberto El Patron thing stirred up. We haven't spent any time talking about Alberto. Talk to us about what he was like to work with, what your relationship was like with him. And he was clearly a top star for Vince. This is his first foray into Impact. What was your experience like here with him?
So, man, you kind of went through quite a few things there. One thing I don't want to miss is that Josh Matthews was phenomenal.
Okay.
Go out of your way to watch, because we're going to get there. But this was, I don't know if this was the first couple episodes. Maybe we did a few in Orlando is the build, but the build was going to be Josh and Jeremy opposing each other, and Abyss was going to be, Scott Steiner and Abyss. So it's a tag. That's what we're building toward, those 4. But Josh kind of getting frustrated and taking matters into his own hands. I thought it was very compelling television, and Josh could not have been. He was really, really good. But Patron, I mean, we hit it off day one. It was, if I remember correctly, one of the stories I remember is that, he was a megastar for Vince and hot there for a while. And for us to get him, it was a big get. And look, I thought it was him and Lashley is what we were going to build toward. I thought 2 big, they both could go. And I thought it was going to be just a really a marquee match. But Ed Nordholm, and he didn't mean any harm out of this, but he snapped a photo of Patron in the ring in Orlando, the tapings before this, and kind of gave away our surprise. but it wasn't that big a deal. Wasn't like, oh my God. But anyway, everybody was excited to get Alberto on. Hard worker. I tell you what, as far as a working relationship with, I don't want to say employer, but that's kind of where I'm going with it. He always and he would tell you, I want to over deliver. What do you want me to do? Worked his ass off, came with the absolute best can-do attitude, helping others, not selfish. How do we get involved? I mean, he was all in, and he got over immediately in the impact zone with that crowd and got over the people. And same when, across the board leading up to Slammiversary, he worked his ass off is what I'll say.
Man, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I do feel like you just gave some, as they say, flowers to two guys who often don't really get them. First of all, Josh Matthews had been on quite a tear on social media at the time, proclaiming that he was the best wrestling announcer of all time. And of course, he knew saying that is going to get him heat. And boy, did it work. There were a lot of people back then, and I think still to this day, who hate Josh Matthews because of that. Well, guess what? It was a character, folks. He wanted you to hate him, aka job well done. And that translates into the ring as well. Not releasing that Steiner recliner, and here they come. But I was glad to hear what you said about Alberto as well, because it feels like a lot of people assume that, he does bad business and he's not a good guy and he's selfish and he's not reliable. And there's all this negativity that surrounds his name. And I have to admit, I don't know, I've never worked with him. I think I may have met him one time, but just in passing. But to hear, oh man, he was great, a hard worker and not selfish and blah, blah, blah. That's great to hear. We don't hear that sort of thing about him enough, maybe.
Yeah. And look, I'm not going to shy away. Look, with my own story, we go through some dark periods where we do dumb shit, bad shit, horrible, whatever it may be. And I know that he's had some dark, I think he would admit that, some dark places. I have no idea where he's at today.
Right.
I mean, but I know my one-on-one relationship, and it was a working professional relationship. I couldn't have asked for anything anymore in 2017, because when he showed up, and he's second generation, at least second generation, right? But I mean, we bonded over generational being in the business, knowing that, hey man, and I told him, look, you're the top guy, the tip top guy. But with that comes all the responsibility. You got to make yourself look good and everybody around you good. And he had no idea putting that on his shoulders and rolling with it.
You said he had no idea. You mean no problem? He had no problem putting that on his shoulders.
Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah. He had, exactly. He had no problem with that concept, with the idea that you're right. I've got a top slide here. I got to prove my worth. I've got to, dig myself, I don't say out of a hole, but yes, I've got to point things in the right direction. And for us, he did during this time frame.
We should mention that there is a boatload of talent that I think maybe people even forget, not just the folks we've named so far, but Trevor Lee's here, Matt Seidel's here, Richards is here, Swoggle's here, Eddie Edwards is here, Rockstar Spud, who we both think a lot of, Moose is here. They do a little Sony 6 Invitational Trophy presentation for a 10-man Rumble match. All those folks are in it. Shera gets the big win. And Shera is going to hug his father and brother and the CEO of Sony Pictures. And then Bruce and Scott D'Amore present the trophy to Shera. And then we see Moose come out and do a promo. And then a fellow named Eli Drake. Yeah. He comes out with Chris Adonis, who we know as Chris Masters. Man, you got a lot of talent on this show. Folks who are doing really big stuff now. They were here a part of this roster in 2017. That's pretty cool. By the way, we haven't mentioned it, but you put that Global Force title, one of your Global Force titles, on a guy named Cody Rhodes too. There's a lot of talent hanging around here, is there not?
Well, and see, that was something that I tried to kind of start and get in early in the episode. Anthem was brand new to the business. And look, at the time, I was my own worst enemy and then some. But they take their responsibility, and that's all water under the bridge. But and I was straight up with Ed and Anthem. Hey, we have got to really put our best foot forward. We've got to get talent in here, and we've got to, I mean, in essence, hammer down. And I thought we had a lot of damage control and then rebuilding that we had to do immediately. And that first and foremost comes with great, compelling content. We've mentioned, Bruce came on. I think we mentioned it on the prior episode, but Bruce behind the scenes, producing and being on camera, I don't want to forget about you mentioned, man, you're skipping through a lot there, but Shera's father, Shera had come over years before and lived in America, but through the Rinky King, that's how he got to America, because we wanted to India as part of it. But for him to go home and perform in front of his father, Conrad, I don't mind telling you, I got a tear in my eye because I'd met them earlier in the day. That was a really big deal. His son went halfway around the world to learn a trade and learn a craft, and came back and got to perform. And there's not a small time executive, literally the very top of the food chain for Sony 6 is there sitting in the audience with his father, and Shera won this, and the embrace and the stuff that really happened off camera was much more special, but it was a really, really feel good moment. But no, we wanted to put our best foot forward talent wise. And look, we were working on a shoestring budget and it ain't cheap to get everybody to India. I can tell you that. It was very expensive.
Well, I'll tell you what else is something you got to think about when you go to India. How's the food? Am I going to be able to drink the water? What should I eat? Well, here's what I know. These days, we'd all be packing AG1. It's your all-in-one nutritional platform that we take every day. It's simply one scoop in a cup of water. That's it. And in that one scoop, 75 different high-quality ingredients that give you the daily nutrients that support energy, focus, strength, and clarity. My wife does it every morning on her way to the gym. She feels like she is more productive at the gym after one scoop of AG1. I actually do mine in the morning, but I think it allows me to stay focused at work longer. I used to have like that 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon crash, not with AG1. I can stay focused longer. I'm more productive longer. AG1 has really helped me in that regard. It's also good for you if you're looking for more energy or more immune system support. Maybe you just hate taking pills and vitamins and you want a supplement that tastes good. Well, that's what happened with my wife. She wanted me to try it and I was like, nah, I'm good. And then eventually she convinced me, just try mine. Oh, well, that's pretty good. I could do that. Bam. I was in. You will be too. It's a micro habit that delivers macro benefits. Think of it as like your all-in-one nutritional insurance. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is go to drinkag1.com/myworld. That's drinkag1.com/myworld. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. Hey, let's talk about Swoggle and Spud. They're going to be setting up a street fight, so they're brawling all over the place. Just reading that makes me smile. How much fun was that?
You know, gosh, what's Spud's real name? James Curtin,
Yes.
right? Who is been with the WWE for quite some time. I mean, not long after this, I'm guessing. He's on the writing team, creative writing department, I believe. But Swoggle, super talented in his own right. But we wanted to go to India. Kind of the mindset was, we've got to go give them a show. Obviously, it's got to also translate back here in the States. But we had to go give them a show and give them a diversity, because the Indian culture is, it truly is a real hybrid of Bollywood, glitz and glamour and movies and passionate storylines. And then on the other side, it's very sport oriented. Cricket and kushti is their form of, I guess you could say amateur wrestling, if you will. But I mean, if there is a country in the world that is tailor-made for professional wrestling, it's India to me. And I've always said that. It is just that. But with that being said, They like their entertainment aspect. So the Spud Swoggle, oh boy.
With a little person referee from India.
If we were doing a watch along, maybe get Casio on board. It'd be
Spud pulls the little guy's pants down. I mean, the crowd is having a great time. Everybody's having fun. Swoggle put Spud through a table. That's real. Swoggle and the referee are going to celebrate. On this same show, we're doing contract signings for the big matches, of course. And we've got that damn Drake and Adonis laying out Moose. Would you have predicted back then that Eli Drake would have the success he's enjoying right now?
Look, it'd be just so silly for me to say, oh, absolutely. But when a guy can be, and I tell this when I do my wrestling seminars, you've got to be above average nowadays with the basics as far as in-ring ability. You don't have to be great and you don't have to be spectacular. You've got to have that as far as in-ring work, but you better be able to talk. And I mean, you have to have promo skills. And if you're just average, it ain't gonna work. And, I think that is important 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And I think it will be just as important 20 years from now, 30 years from now. He's always been able to rap and talk and that. And so really what he has always needed is to me, it's the right opportunity at the right time, because a lot of guys, we gave him an opportunity, but when you kind of look at what we were trying to do, hammer down, and you've got so many different things going on, and look, we made him champ post Slammiversary, I think the timing of it, but yes. So I can't say I would have predicted it, but he's a guy that needed the opportunity and the right time. I just think right now the timing is clicking for him, because when you kind of look at the landscape, they've give him a microphone. That's what he needed. He doesn't need wrestling time in the ring. He needed mic time.
And boy, has it worked. Congrats to him. I got to say, when I saw that they had named him LA Knight, I thought, that ain't a good name. We're not off to a good start. Because when I saw him here in Impact, when you and Bruce were down there, I thought, hey man, this guy, he stands out. He's got a shot.
Yeah.
When they got that name, I thought, I don't know. I don't know about LA Knight. That seems pretty lame. Was I wrong? Yeah. So let's talk about the crowd here in India. We've got 500 folks here in this TV studio, and man, they're on fire. And Meltzer has the details as to why.
Oh.
You see, not everybody who was there was a wrestling fan. You see, these folks were a part of the television studio audience, which means they're paid. And I know what you're thinking. How much does it pay to sit and watch wrestling? Well, maybe not as much as you think. Again, this is India. So they're making between 250 and 400. Am I saying this right? Rupee?
Rupees.
So that's between $3.80 and $7.60, but they are getting paid to watch wrestling. And here's the instructions they're given. Cheer the good guys, boo the bad guys. And I know you're thinking, well, how would they know that? They were told the villains would come from the left side of the stage and the heroes would come from the right side of the stage. Now, even with these instructions, the non-fans, the people who aren't really wrestling fans, they still fall in love with Shera and Dutt, of course. And they still have mega heat with EC3 because of what's happening with this translator. But I like the idea of a paid studio audience. And I know some of our listeners are going to take issue with that. But I am going to say, man, if you've got just quote unquote smart marks who are too cool for school and want to hijack the show, or you've got people who are giving you the response you're hoping you have to work for, and now it's just there, I say to myself, that was money well spent.
Conrad, and this is where only experience, like I'm going to try to explain something, but unless you were in the building and kind of experienced, you'd go, on the one hand, you're going to say, well, of course they cheered and booed. No. As Conrad says, nay. That's not, because as a talent, all we're really doing is giving them guideposts. And the stipend, that's really like a per diem.
Yeah.
I mean, but you kind of have to do that. The problem, or not the problem, the reality is that Sony is spending all this money, and they may produce a shiny dance floor show. They may produce Fear Factor that needs a crowd. They know that they have to have a crowd to produce their TV. So they have like a gigantic database, and these people that like to come see TV. Okay. It's still not a given that that when the guy walks through the curtain, he's going to get this massive boo and massive cheer. It's just not that easy. The good talent, like I can tell you, Rockstar Spud and Swoggle, when they came through, those people didn't know what to expect. I mean, but they tore the house down. Others did that. They had to embrace the role, and then the people in there, the crowd, like so if you did beginning, middle, and end, by the middle of these shows, the audience was like, oh, wow, now I get this. Now I'm educated. Now I understand. I'm not just giving the golf clap cheer or the, simple, the proverbial I'm supposed to boo. They got into to the story, understood things, because in between the breaks, we were giving them, gosh, what's the word? Precondition. Learned that old term from Bruce Pritchard in 1992, 93. We're going to precondition the crowd for you, Jeff. I mean, but so doing that and educating the paid crowd was golden, and it worked because they understood the stories when people came through, because we would kind of give them a short story. Okay, this next segment's going to be this guy coming out, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, tell them a little story. And then they were like, okay, we get it. It was good TV, a lot of fun.
Super fun TV, and they're playing ball. And I know you want to play ball back here in the States. It comes out that you're actually looking at running house shows, and the company hasn't ran house shows since 2015. So they've been a couple years out of the game. Why did you think, or why did you believe that house shows were a good move in this era?
I mean, the short answer is, and this is something that I've had this conversation multiple times over the last 6 months. Look, live events as a part of rebuilding the brand or a startup brand, live events are in no particular order. They can be a profitable, they can be a profit, a revenue stream. But for me, it's a marketing initiative that you get out and your brand is being advertised in markets across the country. That's a marketing initiative. And if you can make some money off this marketing initiative, what a great deal. And on top of that, you get to evolve storylines. And nowadays, it used to be non-televised house shows, non-televised live, whatever you can call it. You never thought about capturing content. I'm a huge believer in now, because we live in a 24/7, 365 era, that if you're going to go run house shows, capture content on social, keep your audience engaged as much as you possibly can. So live events are marketing, storyline development, revenue streams. It also, there's some guys out there that, I mean, me and hundreds of others, that's how you learn to work. I mean, that truly is learning your craft. If you just are on TV, you're never truly going to learn the essence of working a crowd. You're just not. It doesn't happen. You have to have rep after rep after rep, because on TV, you're working toward that red light, and the red light will not give you any feedback. If you're in a non-televised live event, you're working to, as you said so eloquently, talking about live events, you're just talking, working, performing for those 500, 5,000, 15,000 people in that arena. So you get instant feedback on what works and not works. So running house shows, if you will, is a multi-pronged strategy that I think's absolutely necessary for building a brand. Like absolutely necessary for building a brand.
I want to ask you about DeAngelo Williams. It comes out that this NFL stud, he's 34 years old, a legit star running back for the Panthers and the Steelers, but now he's a free agent, which means he doesn't have a contract. He can do what he wants. He's going to team up with Moose, to take on Chris Adonis and Eli Drake. How does this DeAngelo thing come to be?
I racked my brain, and I should have called Moose. I think it was. I think it's Moose's. Moose is a former player. I think DeAngelo was the original connection. I'm not sure if they played together, but I was, man, Conrad. This whole entire episode, folks, and maybe that'll be the bonus that we do with for the My World bonus, is that we watch this show. DeAngelo Williams, when I tell you he got dialed in to do this, and when I was watching him perform, I also would always think back in the mind, if we could have gotten Pac-Man in between contract years where he wasn't tethered to the Titans or whatever it may be. But DeAngelo, I've got so much respect for that guy, because he said he wanted to do it. And when I tell you he approached it like a professional athlete, probably we expect to, it's that, and then exponentially more. He dove in, and when we got to pay-per-view time, and I don't want to jump the gun, wow, I was blown away.
Well, I can't wait to talk about that. Before we do, we got to mention that James Storm gets announced as the 2017 TNA Hall of Fame inductee. Man, talk about a guy who deserved it. I mean, a TNA original. They are literally from the very first show. Well-earned spot here for James Storm, no?
Yep. Cowboy, you know, the evolution of him as a guy that, I mean, I think you know this, came through the wrestling school at USWA, JArrett, Jeff Jarrett. I mean, way back. And then, you know, me and my dad went out to the fairgrounds. My dad fell in love with Storm doing a 5-minute entrance on a Burt Prentice show, but with the pistols and firing the blanks, and just very theatric. And then him getting integrated and coming along, and then him and Chris Harris, and the magic was created there. So he's an OG, and so many highlights of the TNA years and into the Impact years were created when James was in the ring.
Let's talk about Meltzer recapping when some of these Mumbai shows air. From June 19th in 2017, he says he's very complimentary of the product, but he says, quote, "It's too bad they ruined their goodwill to the audience, and WWE put out so much product, and Impact established itself as being so secondary that for most fans, there simply isn't the time to watch it." He would continue, "The wrestling is good, and Bobby Lashley has been booked better as world champion than WWE champions." So he's very complimentary of the look and feel and the crowd, even the wrestling matches, the way you're booking the champion. But I really just want to have a philosophy discussion with you for a moment about that sentence. It's too bad they ruined their goodwill to the audience, and WWE put out so much product, and Impact established itself as being, quote unquote, so secondary that for most fans, there simply isn't enough time to watch. And I think that exists today. I think Impact is still maybe the best kept secret in wrestling. They have a hell of a roster. They've got great leadership in Scott D'Amore. The booking's good. The announcing's good. It looks good. I love the production and the stage and the screens and the graphics. Like, it all looks and feels big time, but it does feel like it doesn't get the chatter it deserves on social media. Why do you think that is? Do you think that they have lost consumer confidence? Is that the right phrase, or is there something else to it?
Land on. So I want to make sure I understand your question. We're talking specifically about Impact's kind of brand equity.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, you know, Dave is being very complimentary, and this is in 2017. And what I'm saying is it still exists today. Like, anytime I've got wrestling friends over at the house, I will inevitably try to find, you know, wrestling for us to watch, because I know that's the commonality. Like, there's people from all over the country and all different walks of life. We might not like the same teams or the same type of shows, but I know we all like wrestling. So I can always throw on my YouTube TV or Sling TV or whatever, and one of those stations, I forget, maybe it's the Fight Network, always has Impact playing, like almost all the time. So I can throw that on, and man, I always find at least one person in that group who says, "Oh man, this is good stuff. I hadn't seen this, and I didn't know." And so it's like this. Oh, I didn't know it was out there, but it's not a secret. Like wrestling fans know it's on, but they've just somehow make a decision. Well, I don't have time for it. I'm not going to prioritize it. I'm not going to watch it. But they will watch SmackDown. They will watch Collision. They will watch Dynamite. They will watch Raw. I don't understand. Like, it's good matches. It's good wrestlers. It's good promos. It's good. It seemingly checks all the boxes. But I think they had the same issue in 2017 that they might have now. Not enough people are taking a look at it, and I can't put my finger on why.
This is obviously about as subjective as possible. And I do think I look at it through a different lens, but also kind of lived it on a very micro situation from 2002 to essentially 2011. We'll go into 2010, 2011. A brand was built called TNA Wrestling, and it was called TNA Wrestling Presents Impact. The TV show came on Fox Sports Net and then Spike. And then, when it became Impact from day one, it was a 6-sided ring. And when it changed to TNA goes away and Impact Wrestling and Wrestling Matters, that was 180 degrees different of what the brand had been built on. This is kind of my thought through the journey. Trying to think of an easy way to say this, but there's not. But the Hogan as the centerpiece was everything that TNA wasn't. TNA, alternative brand, X division, 4 different distinct divisions, 6-sided ring and everything. Impact Wrestling Matters was Hogan, and he's such a dominant figure in this industry. That's what Impact became. And that was on Spike TV 2 hours until he till 2014. But it was rebranded Impact. I believe the brand of Impact, that name, is tainted forever. Hence, tying into this episode, that's why when I sat down with Ed Nordholm and I'm saying, hey, now I've got Global Force and you're calling me and what do you want to do? I said, I truly believe, and look, Ed, I was at the Holiday Inn Vanderbilt when we got down to the nitty gritty, and they said, we have to have the name of the television show at Fox Sports Net. We've got to start. Okay, guys, creative room, let's all get together. We probably had 20, 30 names, whatever it may be. But I said, Ed, I was there when Impact was named. So I've got an affinity to this. It's not that I'm vehemently opposed. And on the flip side, yeah, I've got money invested in Global Force Wrestling. But throw all that out the door. Impact went through a terrible time from 2013 till 2016, 17. Lawsuits, not paying bills. The payables were a mess. AJ Styles gone, all these different folks. And now this is kind of an entirely new roster, as we're talking about. Patron and Bobby Lashley and Eli Drake and Trevor, Bob. We could go down this whole roster. I said, we got a whole new roster. I think we need a name change. I believe that the brand is forever tainted. I don't mean that out of disrespect. I don't mean that, hey, my way or the highway. I'm saying I believe Impact was a 4-letter word, because the 4-letter word to TNA was X Division, AJ and others, Kurt Angle. I mean, just whatever you want to say in that brand. And then it went the other way. And I just think that entire fan base, look at the numbers. The death spiral happened. They spit in the face of every TNA fan. It eventually, had it not been for Anthem, it'd been out of business. So they bought an asset, and I get it, in a huge library, but that brand, if you will, I believe, incredibly tainted. And that's why I was so headstrong on, guys, we got to rebrand. You got to rename it. You know, car dealerships do it all the time. There's all kinds of things, people that do it, that when you get a asset that's tainted, you got to give more than a fresh painted coat, a fresh coat of paint on it. So does that make sense, Conrad?
It does. And you said it the exact same way Bruce does, a fresh painted coat. And maybe that's what you need in your shorts. And that's why Blue Chew is here to hook you up. Guys, we're going to get that ding dong real hard. It's going to feel like you got cracked over the head with a guitar. It's all about the stroke here on My World. And if you're looking for a few more strokes, can I recommend Blue Chew? It's the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. So you can take them anytime, day or night. You can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. And the process is simple. You'll sign up at bluechew.com. You'll consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And once you're approved, man, you get your prescription within a few days. And here's the best part. It's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package. But there won't be anything discreet about your package. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at bluechew.com. Chew it and do it. And boy, do we have a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code MyWorld at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com. The promo code is MyWorld, and you'll receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast and Jeff's Wiener. If you're not sure if he uses it, take a look at Karen's smile, ear to ear, baby. Okay, let's talk about the June 8th episode of Impact on Pop TV.
Wait a minute. And I know you're those. What was your thought? I mean, I will forever have, it's just, me and my old man founded the company, and with his passing, even there's more special times that I look back on. But okay, let me ask you this. Throw my thoughts out the window. What is your thoughts?
I don't think the name change matters. Like,
okay.
I mean, and I hear what you're saying about changing the name, but the reality is you can't abandon that back catalog. Like, my thing is, like, changing the name, people would say, like, when it went from TNA to Impact, I think a lot of people took the attitude of, oh, new name, same old shit. Like, they just have this negative connotation. It would have to be a whole new group of folks. But the reality is, it is a whole new group of folks.
It is.
This isn't Dixie Carter. It's not Jeff Jarrett. This is Scott D'Amore, and you've never seen this version.
Okay.
It's totally different. It's a totally different look and feel. It's totally different people. And it's still just not enough. And I don't understand why. And I had a conversation with a friend of ours. I won't say their name, but a friend of ours who said, maybe it would be different if they were on a bigger station. And I was going to say, I don't think that's real either. Like, nobody has, I mean, I shouldn't say nobody. Nobody I know has cable anymore. Everybody has Sling or YouTube TV or something like that. So there is no difference between Fox and TNT. And I know that people still look at the categories differently and all that, but I'm saying if you have a streaming service that provide an alternative to cable or DirecTV, you have all of it anyway. In fact, if you had DirecTV or cable, you'd have it all anyway. Nobody's sitting at home with rabbit ears is my point.
Okay. So with that being said, that's why if me and you, and we can pick out a roll call, whoever you want in the room, and we had a whiteboard up front. The first thing I would do would be rename it. The second thing I would do is put a marketing plan in place. And I'm not talking about advertising. We've got wrestling every so-and-so night from 7 to 9. I would be talking about, how do I distinguish my product differently from everything out there? Okay. So that's what I'm saying is, I think it's an overall, wrestling's wrestling. I mean, tackle, drop, hip toss. Well, go ahead.
I don't think you got to be on TV.
No, I'm not saying
that's what I was getting to. I was going to say, you know where I put the show? Twitter and YouTube.
No, so you can look at a whole list of all that. But what I'm saying is, put it wherever you want. Tackle, drop down, hip toss, get it again is all essentially the same. The marketing's different.
Yes. Yes.
The marketing.
I would, I think the next big boom and bonanza in wrestling is going to be two things. The people who figure out short form video fastest.
I got something cooking, pal.
Here's what I mean. And I know that what we're creating right now is content for a niche of a niche of a niche. Would you agree?
Spot on.
How do I get a 14-year-old? How do I get an 8-year-old? How do I get a 64-year-old woman to take a look? I don't think they want to invest in your character, or they're not going to just randomly say, man, there's nothing on TV. I think I'll check out wrestling. The way to get people's attention is short form video. My mom would never in her life intentionally sit down and watch wrestling, not on purpose. Now, she came to Ric Flair's last match last year to support me. She knew it was a big deal to me, so she came. And she sat in the crowd and had a good time. And when it was all said and done, you know what she said? Boy, them boys in them masks.
That AAA match was something else.
She don't know that. She don't know what AAA is.
No, but I mean, that's what she wrote.
That's what she's saying. Them boys in them masks. Man, I never seen anything like it. She went home on Sunday, and on Monday night, they weren't anything to watch on TV. They bought the pay-per-view, Jeff. They didn't ask me for a promo code or a link to watch the show. My parents bought a pay-per-view and actually sat down and watched it. And they didn't watch the whole show. They fast-forwarded again to watch the lucha match. And I think with Apple finally doing what Oculus Rift has been trying to do for a long time and make these goggles mainstream, I think with short-form video, we can put cameras in them kids' masks and in replays and show stuff. What's cooler than watching guys do superhero shit if you're a little kid? Having the POV of the superhero. Now this is a real-life video game come to life. Have that and put it to some cool music, you're making money. Run shows in clubs like MLW has. Have a live band there like Dorian does down at his new dinner theater thing in Cancun. And we know when the high spots are coming. The ref has an IFB. He's talking to the guys. We know when the beat's going to drop, like the way a Korn song builds and builds and builds and then it hits. Well, that's when the flippity-doo-dah off the top rope happens. And you let everybody in the crowd put that shit on TikTok, people are going to say, who would normally never watch wrestling, oh, wow, okay. Here's my point. This show we're about to cover from 2017 on Pop TV, y'all had 318,000 viewers. That's a pretty decent number. At the time, people were saying, oh, that's nothing. I wonder what it would have gotten on TikTok. 5 million? 10 million? Now, they're going to sit down and watch the whole show? Maybe not.
Oh.
But you got to make them care first. And what I'm saying is that's the way I discover comedy. I'll see an Instagram reel and I'll see a guy's bit and I'll say, damn, that's pretty good. I like that. Then I'll see him again. And if I like it again the second time, I'm like, all right, I got to look up this guy. Let me see what he's about. Now I'm going to follow him. I'm going to start getting content. Oh, what do you know? He's down here at Stand Up Live. I'm going to go buy a ticket. We've got to find a way to make wrestling cool and short form video. I think that'll hit. I really, really do. And I think the perspective of let's put cameras in the mask and recreate that for kids, man, I can get people to pay attention to that now. I think leaning into social and just changing the way it looks and feels, it doesn't have to be a great 20-minute affair. We're all going to love that. But we can take this content and chop it up 100 different ways. Like the bloodline stuff is so inside baseball. I can't get my mom to just sit down and watch it and enjoy it. She doesn't know the backstory. It's too far gone. We're on season 7 from a Netflix terminology. She would have no idea what it is. But some fantastic bump that everybody's crazy about, that's all the rage to do now, that should be the lost leader to pull them in. I don't think you got to have TV anymore. YouTube is global. YouTube is the world's second largest search engine behind Google. Like, why would you not just throw the shit on YouTube? And I saw full-length videos on Twitter now. I guess that's the thing. I'm just saying I'd start hammering all that stuff. But I would even think about, hey, put it behind a paywall. Like, I'm going to throw you all these little freebies, right? If you want to see the little clips, no problem. You want to see the full show, throw me $1. Like, throw me $1 is nothing. Nobody thinks about it. But those dollars add up. They add up. Think about if Tony was putting Collision on TV. I don't know what his gate is, but I bet it ain't $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 every week. But it could be. And it could be on top too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah, definitely. I follow. Yes.
Now Tony's getting a boatload of cash because he's got television rights. He doesn't need that. But if you're a startup, if you're MLW, if you're Impact, if you're NWA, like motivate that passionate fan base and figure out how to use social media. A friend of mine is always saying that. That's how you build your character in wrestling these days, is social media. But I think the business can too. Like set the hook, but do it in 15 seconds. Do it in 30 seconds.
I'm with you. I think there's a flip side of that too, is the long runway that takes time to build. Like, characters, you just don't get emotionally attached to a character overnight.
No, but what I'm saying is if I see somebody doing fantastic stunts or he's got a fantastic promo, when I say stunts, I don't just mean a high spot. Yeah. I mean, it could be it could be a funny promo. It could be a funny, but if we go in with that mentality of, I got to get it quick.
Yeah.
And if 2 million people see the clip, it has a chance to do something. How do we get it to 3? How do we get it to 4? We're no longer talking about 80,000 people watch this show, 200,000 people watch that show. That's the way the business used to be. That's not the way the world is now. I
was going to say, it's antiquated conversation.
And I don't think the idea that we need a big venue and we got to sell a bunch of tickets, like it always, I know we're sidebarred here and we're going to get back on track in a minute, but the idea that people are posting pictures of empty seats and they're like, oh boy, their business is dying. Look how few people are there. Hey guys, that ain't the revenue driver in wrestling and ain't been for a long, long time. Why are we still talking about? It would be akin to saying, do you know how many newspapers the Huntsville Times delivered today? Well, that's a fraction of where it was last year. And 2 years ago, they delivered a lot. No one reads newspapers. What are you talking about? Well, the thing is, people make their money in wrestling now on television rights. And if you're not one of the lucky few to do that, why are you trying to be less than what the folks who are doing? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I lean into social media huge. That's what I would do.
Oh, bingo.
Yeah.
It is. All right. Where are we at? You're good.
318,000 people are watching, which is pretty good. It is down a little bit from the prior year. That was at 326. But we should talk about some other things that you're going to have to be facing here before we get to the show. Josh Matthews and Jeremy Borash are wrestling. So who's going to be on the call for Slammiversary? How about Robert Flores with Don West? Don West is back. And Robert Flores has never done this, ever. But boy, he knows how to be a broadcaster, and he's a wrestling fan. And according to the rumor and innuendo, he's the backup plan. I guess the original idea was Mike Tenay should come back and do it with Don West, and Mike turned it down. Tell me about trying to get Tenay back. How does Don West fit into this equation? And what do you think of the Robert Flores opportunity? How does it come to be?
So, the Mike, I don't want people to read too much into this. Mike's a good bud. I'll leave with this. He just wasn't ready. Didn't feel it. And I totally respected it. And is a conversation. The setup to all this is a fascinating, fascinating story. So this maybe Conrad could have been, and I don't even know if I've shared this with you, but I think December of 2016, Hilton, Nashville, I'm having my first conversations. I don't even think me and Ed had kind of dotted the I's, crossed the T's. We had talked about, and I'm just like, bring me up to speed on anything and everything. I had agreed that I'm going to do this against several people's will, but do this. But so it was early in our conversations, and he said, oh man, we've got a warehouse. And I'm like, you still got the warehouse? Y'all still paying that? It's over in West Nashville. Anyway, a boatload of merchandise, not a little bit. Lots of aged, I mean, a lot. Conrad, did I say a lot of merchandise?
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, Nita, pal, what do you think? Oh, man, here's what I need. I mean, Don was this quick. I need an inventory of everything that needs to be sold. Give me a couple of days and I'll package it up. We'll figure this out. Okay. I want to say that Don created over $1 million worth of revenue in 3 or 4 months. I mean, it was big. He liquidated everything. Some of the stuff was 3 and 4 and 5 years old. So, I mean, he sold a lot of, they were deals and this and that, and I'm sure wholesalers in there. But anyway, that's how me and Don, we always remain tight and close and all that. But Don was back on board and in the swing of things. And Mike was, I'm not feeling it. So me and Roflo, or Robert Flores, but Roflo was his Twitter name. But Robert, we've been friends a while. And yes, huge wrestler. He just texted me the other day about coming into, he works for Major League Baseball Network now. But at the time, he was, and I don't say that they've, at one time, hosting Sports Center had a big time stature. It's definitely just through not anything ESPN did, just life has changed. And Fox Sports has incredibly escalated their game with Saturday football and Saturday basketball packages and their baseball package and all that. But anyway, ESPN, the sports network. But anyway, Robert was a Sports Center host. And I'm like, all right, we got to get outside the box thinking. How do we do something that is taking a risk? And I wanted to take a risk, Conrad, and a calculated risk, and give this show as much of a unique feel as I possibly could. And I thought this was a gamble, one of those gambles that not a lot of folks were on board. Some people were like, who the hell is Robert Flores? I said, he's a Sports Center host. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Just that cachet comes along with it. But Robert's a great broadcaster. He can say all the unique hockey names that me and you can't. But no, he's very articulate, very creative, great personality. And it's one of the things of the takeaway of this show, putting him and Don together as a team. They met for the very first time when they got to Orlando to call this show. And that was something that I just made a call and said, hey man, let's take a gamble. I want something to hit. Cause I was essentially in hopes, Conrad, that this was the true first step one of the revitalization of the brand.
Yes.
I got there in January and I said, all right, we need about 6 months to really get a roster going and ducks in a row and talent. And I think we're going to get our budget down and our cadence down and some marketing. And I think our television partners domestically and internationally, let's really show them something and show them some growth, show them ratings, pay-per-view buys and everything. Let's kind of get our sea legs under us. And this is our, like I said, our biggest step foot forward since Jeff and his team and Anthem and their team came together. So I wanted something special at the booth, and that's who I ended up choosing.
It's fun to think about, what could have been with Mike Tenay. Do you think Mike will ever do anything in wrestling again?
I sure hope so in so many ways. Even if it's a one-off, Mike is. So this is Jeff's opinion. This isn't something Mike said. I think Mike is obviously super good. I went with him from day one to lead my brand and where I was putting my own personal money. So I think it goes without saying what I think of his ability. But I think Mike holds himself to a standard higher than anybody out there. And I think that if Mike's going to do something, he wants it to be the right place, the right time, the right money, the right situation. And I respect the hell out of that. And if it never happens, it's a loss for the wrestling industry. I truly believe that. Mike is so good. And I think it's something that nowadays that him being out so long, whether it's Bob Costas or Ben Scully, or, we could go down a list of legendary names. If he was to step back in and do a one-off, I think it would be that much more special because he's got a cadence to his calls that I think obviously it's only Mike can do. Lance had a style that I saw a clip on Instagram feed about, was it Piles of Wrestling? That anyway, the match with that I wrestled Bachwinkle, and I heard Lance in the ring making that introductory call that everybody has a unique style. So I certainly hope we get to see Mike back on camera, back calling a show.
Me too.
One more time. I mean, the eulogy he gave Don West, a part of me, I just grinned from ear to ear, thinking to myself, damn, only D-Dub can pull Mike out and get him on camera.
Let's talk about Ross Foreman. He's hired up to head up media relations. He worked with the company before, and then somehow that deal came to an end. But I knew that name going back to the WCW days. What can you tell us about Ross?
Again, Ross, hockey fan, memorabilia fan. Have you ever been around him, Conrad?
I met him a few times at Impact.
Well, I mean, he knows his memorabilia. He's a Chicago guy. Bears, he knows his sports inside and out. But again, he had worked for TNA/Impact for years and years and years, and like a lot of folks, went their separate ways. But again, Ross is more than a PR guy. He's an idea creator, thinker, executor, and so he understands wrestling. Obviously, been around it forever. So he's not a crazy PR guy that comes off with stuff that's just a little bit too out of bounds or off the wall that you kind of got to know. Forgive me for saying this, but you'll grin when I say this. Got to know that wrestling logic. Oh, that makes wrestling sense. But Ross has that. And again, the DeAngelo Williams, and from time to time through the years, Ross would always come up with these different ideas, but always know how to get the most out of the PR. And so bringing him on board was, kind of a part of putting a team together, some from new, some old, but he knew how to service and get the most out of, for example, the Robert Flores. Oh, okay. Let's lean into that Sports Center PR vibe, and we're going to get play there. Ross is very good at that. He's done it a long time. He's still with him today, I believe.
He is. Yeah. I saw him in November.
Hey guys, need to call a quick timeout here. Wanted to tell your listeners what I've been telling my listeners over at OU Didn't Know for a while now about all the cool things happening over at adsfreeshows.com.
We recently celebrated the 25-year anniversary of the biggest Nitro of all time, when Goldberg faced Hollywood Hogan at the Georgia Dome. Eric, alongside the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan and the living legend Larry Zbyszko, joined Ad Free Shows members live to relive it.
Yeah, well, you can't fire me now, so I'll tell you the truth. I don't think anything can beat that. That was the ultimate. I mean, they broke the decibel record. The roof blew off the place. It was amazing. Totally amazing.
Speaking of the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan joins AdFreeShows.com, starting this July with a brand new mailbag series, Tuesday with the Taskmaster, answering your questions each and every week.
I have over 50 years of experience in the wrestling business, and I'm happy to be on this platform with Conrad. So send in your letters. You got a question, I can go back even past 50 years, and I'm a wrestling historian. So anything you want to know, we'll try to deliver.
That's just a small taste of what we got waiting for you. With 4 levels to choose from, see for yourself why Ads Free Shows is the best value in wrestling today. Sign up now at adsfreeshows.com.
Let's talk a little bit about some releases that come down. Al Snow, Shane Helms, and Pat Kenny are all released from the company. And it's written in the Observer that they're not budget cuts, but the feeling is having 7 agents for a 2-hour weekly show is overkill, since the booking team and Bruce Pritchard, even though he's not technically an agent, he's still kind of helping as an agent capacity. And the idea is, hey, let's use that money instead for new talent or for production. Maybe we don't need as much agent support. What can you tell us about this decision, unfortunately, to let your friends Al, Shane, and Pat loose?
I mean, you more or less said it for yourself. The big thing was, yes, Bruce, maybe I tricked him. Hey, we're just going to put you as an on-screen talent. Day he got there. Bruce, can you produce this pre-tape? Hey, Bruce, can you do this? Hey, we got this interview, Bruce. What do you think? Hey, since you're producing the interview, can you go produce the in-ring segment? I mean, Bruce is very good at what he does. So that was one thing. We didn't need 7 to do 2-hour show. And yes, it was, I can't say a budget cut, but it was managing dollars. and Sanjay was in, and Sanjay could wrestle and produce. Trying to think who else that we brought in. And look, I'm not going to dance around. When you bring in, we'll call it a new head coach, they come with their assistants. I've worked, I just did the WrestleQuest shoot with Al Snow a couple of months ago. Me and Pat Kenny, we worked together last year at the NWA deal. So Shane Helms, I worked with him at WWE. It was just one of those things. And to my knowledge, wasn't any heat out of it. It was just things happen like this business. It was a regime change, if you will.
Let's talk about the regime change that maybe has happened in AAA over the years. Maybe not. Konnan comes out on his podcast and says that he's going to be working on this Slammiversary show. That's notable because he's going to be working against AAA wrestlers, and AAA supposedly hates Konnan. This is at the time, of course. These days he's their booker, so a little hokey pokey, on again, off again. Is that the right way to describe Konnan and AAA over the years?
There is a whole different, is novella the right word? Yeah, that's a Spanish.
Yeah.
So yeah. With Konnan and AAA, well, Konnan and all of Mexico, when you go back to CMLL, and I mean, he was there day one with Pena when AAA was launched, and then some glory years, and then went sideways. So Konnan has had a very storied career, but at the time, won't get into the weeds there. I know a lot of stuff firsthand, but he at the time, he was not seeing eye to eye with Dorian and company.
Here's a Jeff Jarrett move. Buddy Dyer, the mayor of Orlando, declared July 5th Impact Wrestling Day in the city. He's also going to be at the tapings. That's right out of the Double J playbook, is it not?
I mean, what do you mean? Yes, obviously it is, but local press, now this is something this is 2017. We went down there in 07. Conrad, Universal Studio Orlando's backlot was what it was called and marketed. They never really told anybody
what was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, they just kept it a hidden secret. This is at the very beginning of the transition years of, hey, let's let the world know. And look, the fact of the matter is, we brought in the Spike days a boatload of publicity. We're live from Universal Studios Orlando every week on Spike in front of 2 million people. I've said it forever. I know they got to balance budgets, but we should have been getting our rent free. I mean, the amount of publicity we gave them, and we could have done more, but we did photo shoots and ID shoots and ID things. And at the top, it could have been a trade-off, but that's a whole nother discussion. With that being said, Buddy, that's Ross. I said, hey, Ross, let's figure something out. Anyway, we contacted them because we brought entertainment and jobs. I mean, all the production work. We were great for, were we enormous? No, but I mean, we were good for the Orlando economy, and Buddy saw it immediately. And also, he's a politician. Hey, I'll get into my voter base and get to say hello. But I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer, and the mayor's office was absolutely great to us at the time.
Somebody else who's great to you at the time is Anthem. Anthem is officially going to acquire Global Force Wrestling. A press release comes out announcing this. Are we allowed to talk about that, or should we just say, hey, that was announced and now here's the show?
No, I mean, it was, for the lack of a better word, do you want to finish? Because I think you cut yourself off, but
no, I mean, listen, I don't know what we can or can't talk about. I know ultimately this deal wound up in front of litigators, and
yes,
there was an announcement that they were going to be acquiring what you guys were doing. This partnership will be complementary of our strengths and bolster our capabilities to grow in the Impact Wrestling brand. Ed Nordholm as president and Jeff Jarrett as chief creative officer make a great tag team. We're excited by the progress we've made with the Impact Wrestling since acquiring the business in January, said Ed Nordholm. Jeff and his team have been instrumental in this success, and we are pleased that we've reached an agreement on the basis of which we can combine our businesses and continue to grow. Slammiversary will be a fitting occasion to bring the promotions together and merge the titles under the new Impact combined belts. By combining our resources and talent, we can produce the best product for our global audience.
In short, Conrad, and you'll get this immediately, that deal had been done in January.
We're just waiting to make it public to roll out the new belts and all that here.
Bingo. Prior to Slammiversary. It would have clouded the issue January, February, March, April, because it was like, what are y'all doing? It was a timing issue, is why it was put out in June.
Well, we should mention this is going to happen in July, this pay-per-view we're about to cover finally. Along the way, we should mention it was head-to-head with the second night of the New Japan show in Long Beach, attended by Tony Khan. How about that?
How about that?
Tony Khan is at this show in Long Beach in July. Meanwhile, you guys are putting on one heck of a show. Slammiversary 15. The readers of the Wrestling Observer gave it 84.5% thumbs up, 15.5% thumbs down. They thought the best match was the tag title 4-way, followed by Alberto and Bobby Lashley. They thought the worst match was the Rosemary match. And this is the first time that we have rebranded with GFW in the title. The new graphics say GFW Impact Wrestling. So the promotion's call letters are GFW for Global Force Wrestling, the name of the promotion that Jeff Jarrett attempted to start and ran 13 weeks of TV tapings in Las Vegas in 2015 before he was unable to sell the show in the US or the UK. The GFW tapes were acquired by Anthem as part of the deal where Jeff Jarrett became a stakeholder in the new company and will be used for some of the commitments to one-night-only specials in India that will air on the pay-per-view in the US. Just about everyone on all sides felt the TNA name had too much negative baggage. When Billy Corgan attempted to purchase the company, he noted one of the earliest moves would be to change the name. So this is the first show under the new banner, and Meltzer would say that it was well received, but it probably did very little business. Quote, those at GFW claim the pay-per-view number tripled that of last year's show, although it's not like last year's show did significant business either. Another issue with this group is that compared to WWE, ROH, or New Japan, the quality of wrestling isn't that strong. They're getting better, and the new hires include some solid wrestlers, but that wouldn't matter so much if they were on Spike and drawing big TV numbers and the storylines were working. But they're doing small numbers. Of course, they're talking about trying to replicate the final deletion thing with Jeremy Borash and Joseph Park taking on Scott Steiner and Josh Matthews. Well, it's a lot of pre-tape stuff. But the biggest mainstream story coming out of it is DeAngelo Williams being a part of this program. Let's get into the matches. We got Santana and Ortiz starting off hot. Man, we just love those guys. I was convinced back when they were still a tag team. I guess they're not now. I'm not really sure. But I was convinced, man, they're like the best kept secret in tag team wrestling. They win a 4-way over Garza Jr. and Laredo Kid, Ishimori and Marufuji, and Drago and El Hijo de Fantasmo. It gets 3 stars in the Observer, and Santana and Ortiz retain the GFW tag straps. This is a big-time match. I thought this was a great opportunity for you guys to showcase Santana and Ortiz. A lot of talent in the ring, but they stood out huge to me. What do you think their ceiling could have been?
I think it's unlimited. I mean, that was, I could remember from a creative perspective, January, February, Conan's promo skills and the LAX, I'll call it brand within our world, I thought was still very strong, but we needed new talent. And so I know Jeremy Borash was involved and Conan was involved and maybe a few others, but that was the new LAX, Ortiz and Santana. And I fell in love with them day one. I just think they have got a real authentic vibe that they're not bookend. They don't look alike. They're not exactly alike, but they just got, I just think the magic in them is in it. And I've said this, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. Ortiz versus Santana, the sum is fantastic. They just got magic when you put them together.
Fantastic. I hope one day we get to see them reunited. I thought it was a great tag team. Would have loved to have seen them do more. Can't wait to see what they do next, though.
That's right.
What's next for us is Moose and DeAngelo Williams taking on Eli Drake and Chris Adonis. They go 10:34. You've got Gary Barnage there, who is an NFL player, and Austin Dillon, who's a NASCAR driver who won this year's Coca-Cola 600. They're all in the corner of Moose and DeAngelo. They're going to come out with cheerleaders, which maybe are some independent folks, but still fun match here. The announcers are putting it over like DeAngelo did better than Dennis Rodman, Karl Malone, or Jay Leno. The table doesn't break as it's supposed to. Things happen. We're live, pal. So DeAngelo is supposed to do a splash off the top, but it doesn't break. Moose calls an audible, brings Drake back in the ring, power bombs him through the table. That's all she wrote. How do you think DeAngelo did in his wrestling match here with Moose?
Maybe I think maybe for the very first attempt, and I know we've had a lot in there as of late with Shaq had a match,
Logan Paul, Bad
Bunny, all that. When I watched it, I remember in the truck going, that may be the best first match I've ever seen. And I gave a boatload of credit to his two opponents. And by design, going into that, you go, okay, we've got to have guys that ended up, they got to be seasoned. They got to be able to call audibles. They got to be able to tighten things up or extend things. You never know about a show, but you kind of have to have pro in there. And Eli and Matt Masters were those two guys. But and there's, again, I hope we do a watch along with this, because when you watch it from the perspective of, this is a current NFL top running back doing this, you just kind of go, okay, this guy respects the business. He's completely dialed into this performance, and he did great.
We've spent a lot of time talking about Eli Drake. We haven't spent very much time talking about Chris Masters. He's wrestling here as Chris Adonis. He's still doing his thing as Chris Adonis for the NWA and a lot of independents. I think a lot of people probably thought, well, we'll never see Carlito back in WWE again. Allegedly, he signed a deal, and he's back with WWE. I think what maybe gets forgotten about is when we were first introduced to Chris Masters, he was a pup. The dude's just now 40. He's still very, very young. You think we'll see him as a major player on television again sometime?
You know, you never know. And that's something that when I think back on, you could just kind of give an array of people's career, that when you jump on TV at such an early age,
yes,
and get shot up quickly, maybe too quick, hindsight tells you don't really have anywhere to go but down.
Right.
You know, you don't manufacture. There's only one rock and one, so the slow, methodical build to progression of a guy's career, there's so much more. I don't want to say longevity but longevity and success. But Chris had that run, and then I've always been Chris can work. Chris knows, and I'm not saying moves, but this is 6 years ago. What was he? So 34, 35? I can remember.
He's just now 40. Yeah. So he would have been
34. I remember going to India going, this guy's going to be one of our champions.
I mean he has a cool look. His work's fun. His work's good. Like,
he's got an arrogant slug too. He has a punchable face. Yeah, you want to hate him. Like he has it down pat. And I feel like, to use an acting thing, maybe he just gets typecast a little bit. Like, bingo.
It's really hard for me to imagine James Gandolfini as anybody other than Tony Soprano. So when I see him in other stuff, I don't want to accept it, because it's like, no, I want him to be that guy. And I hope that changes for him. Maybe he just needs something fresh. Maybe he needs Hello Fresh. Oh, Jeff and I love some Hello Fresh. They are America's #1 meal kit, because they let you skip the trips to the grocery store, and they make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And man, they got something for everybody. And I mean everybody, no matter what your lifestyle is. Maybe you're like Jeff and you're wanting to bulk up. Well, try Protein Smart. Maybe you're trying to cut some lbs. Well, Calorie Smart can hook you up. They've even got you covered if you're vegan. Something for everybody. Seriously, they have over 40 different recipes to choose from every single week, so you never feel like you're getting in a rut. Not just your full meals either. They can get your snacks. Hell, they can get breakfast too. But lots of fun stuff that you don't normally think about. That's what I really like. It gets me out of the rut. And I have to admit, when I first heard about this, I thought, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to cook all this stuff. There's some pretty cool sounding stuff on here, but can I really do that? We kind of stick to our familiar paths around here. Dude, the instructions were unbelievably simple. There's pictures. Do this, then do that. And it's so much easier than just doing this on your own. Like sometimes my wife will call me and she'll say, hey, will you swing by the store on your way home? I forgot to get so-and-so. And Jeff, I find myself standing in that aisle saying, now which one did she want? I'll just get 3 or 4 of these. And then I know I got the right one. You don't want to do that. You're overbuying. This is not only going to save you money, it's also going to be faster. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to taste better. When they say fresh, they mean it. It goes from farm to your front door in like 7 days. So HelloFresh is not just a gimmick, but they do have everything you need at the grocery store. We're talking like over 100 different add-on items, plus those 40 recipes. What are you waiting for? When you need dinner fast, check out their Fast and Fresh. That's a 15-minute meal. From the time you crack the box until you're eating, 15 minutes. By the way, it's 25% cheaper than takeout. How do you beat this? With all the proteins and the fresh produce and the plans for every lifestyle, it really is no wonder that HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. We want you to try it. Go to HelloFresh.com/MyWorld50. Use the promo code MyWorld50 and you'll get 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/MyWorld50. Just be sure to use the promo code MyWorld50. You'll get 50% off plus free shipping at HelloFresh.com/MyWorld50. Our third match is EC3 beating James Storm here in 10 minutes and 37 seconds. It's a strap match, and the angle that was set up here is because Carter whipped James Storm's 31 times. So, of course, to get started, Storm is going to whip EC3 over and over and over. This is old school. I really like it. I love a country whipping match, as we used to call it here in the South. It gets 3 stars. Storm is going to hit a super kick and collapse. And the idea is it's just a delayed reaction from a ring post spot he had just a few seconds prior. EC3 picks him up, hits a pedigree, and pins him. And then they have a bunch of medical personnel come and check on EC3. Talk to me about, or check on James Storm. Talk to me about the strap match and what you thought of these guys. I mean, these are TNA stalwarts at this point, James Storm and EC3.
They came with their work boots on. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And when you kind of look at the progression of this show, and you know, Phantasma, he's Escobar in WWE right now. Drago has, you know, that opening match had 8 guys. Marufuji, they, you know, it's not X Division, but it's very, very much high octane, lot of action. Then you went into the DeAngelo Williams, which was, you know, the celebrity match, if you will, that was super entertaining. This next match was, all right, we're going to give them some wrestling. No, we're going to give them some one-on-one action that, you know, I mean, I think I noticed in the notes something about the straps. It's yeah, you can work it, but both those guys, and we had the conversation, boys, you're going to have this, you got to lay it in. And boy, did they. And that's something that everybody can relate to being whipped. You just can. And when you see it happen a couple of times, you go, damn, that's got to hurt. Okay. It's the short form video that you talked about.
Yeah.
You can't turn away. And then there's a story. And then those guys know how to work and tore the house down.
You've probably been in a country whipping match before. Is that your least favorite stipulation, or where does it rank? I mean, no way to work a belt shot. That's just grin and bear it, huh?
In a weird way, it's one of my favorites. Look, the sting goes away. It ain't fun, but if you do it right, get your mileage out of your straps. Now, look, I'm not going to say I'm going to sign up every night for one, but you said stipulation match. I like, you know, pole matches. You know, we're going to give some Russo LOL. Those, you've got to have and I learned it in Memphis. I mean, you've got to have guys that know how to work those.
Yes.
If you don't, the object that's hung on a pole is a complete distraction. And I believe that's why those matches get such a bad rep, because the talent doesn't know how to work the matches. They do not. I can remember Lawler in the dressing room that would watch a semifinal or a match middle of the show that had a pole stipulation, and guys would go out and would literally have, let's just hypothetically say, a 15-minute match, right? And for the first 12, they ignored the pole. And that would just eat Lawler alive. He would dog cuss them. They'd come through the curtain like, guys, all of a sudden you told the people, oh, it's time to go home. We got to start using the step. It's like a total disconnect. If you're going to make what's on the top of the pole mean something, give it value from the time you walk to the ring before the bell rings. Start looking up at it, sizing folks up. Make that the story. Don't ignore it. So I think pole matches get a bad rep because of talent not having, I call it, the experience or being produced the right way. But anyway, I don't like those steps that going in, the crowd's kind of already voted on it in a way. That's why I think a strap match, people are going to go, all right, we're going to see if they're going to hit each other. Ooh, damn.
Well,
that strap tonight. So
now that I know you're not opposed to the strap, I got an idea for next year's Top Gun weekend. We'll talk.
All right, moving on.
Joseph Park and Jeremy Borash are going to team up to beat Scott Steiner and Josh Matthews in a no DQ match. Steiner is out here not looking exactly like he used to, but hey, he's 53 and still a big old dude. This is a fun match. I know it's a little silly, but we get Chef Robert Irvine, who's legitimately Gail Kim's husband, involved as well. We're doing some outside the ring stuff that's a little fun with a truck and a pool and Shark Boy and James Mitchell. What'd you think?
Conrad, and we probably don't have the time today, I don't know, but you can Google, I don't know if Impact has them up anymore. I think some of them, they take them down, but the training videos, Borash and Joe Park training for this, and Steiner, hey, Mr. Papa, big. I mean, the training vignettes going into this match set the table. And look, I get it. It may not be for everybody, but I mean, it again, a little bit of something for everybody. DeAngelo, 4-way tag, strap match. Now you're getting into this. I mean, Scott's Joe Park, but he wasn't portrayed as a full-time wrestler. Steiner, the veteran wrestler, and you got two announcers. You look like you have a train wreck. And they did I'll call it a part cinematic match, and a golf cart was involved. And then they ended up getting the finish inside the ring. But I just thought very, very, very entertaining rollout and execution, and the build to it's what made it. Some of the vignettes, we'll call them JB specials. They were very entertaining. To this day, my man Codes will play a couple of those videos. So
it's fantastic. Go out of your way to see it. Even Meltzer said this was entertaining for what it was.
Did he really?
He did. Yeah, he liked it.
Okay.
Next up, Eddie and Alicia Edwards are going to beat Davey Richards and Angelina Love. It's a full metal mayhem match. Lots of spots here. Exactly what you would imagine. Kendo sticks and trash cans. And Love is even bleeding from the bridge of her nose. And we got ladders and tables. And man, where are you at on this? What'd you think? I mean, this is a pretty brutal match to have the ladies involved in a mixed tag.
Again, we took throughout this show, it was a roller coaster ride, and to have I'll call it a couples Full Metal Mayhem, which is basically our version of table, ladders, and chairs. For those non-TNA Impact fans, what is a Full Metal Mayhem? Oh, it's tables, ladders, and chairs.
There you go.
Those four worked their ass off.
Yeah,
laid it in. And look, Eddie and Davey are, former tag team that worked together, so they've got a relationship. They didn't hold anything back. This show, everybody kicked ass. I mean, they just, you know, and you mentioned that up top. I was going to go back to it. Meltzer's, the Observer readers, 80-something%.
Yeah, 85%. Yeah.
I wonder if that's a record for TNA.
That's a great call. It might be.
Because, I mean, a little something for everybody. But again, it all goes down to talent, effort, and execution. And these guys did it. These guys and gals.
I love this next match. The crowd is a little quiet because it's going to be hard to follow a TLC. We got a 2 out of 3 falls match here for the X Division title with Low Key challenging Sanjay Dutt. And these were 2 of my absolute favorites way back in the day, and they're still tearing it up in 2017 here.
Yep.
Low Key's experimenting with a new look. Meltzer had these comments. Low Key worked the match in a suit and tie, as he has at times of late. He did that at a Tokyo Dome show, and the New Japan people were furious and claimed they would never use him again. What do you think of that?
What was that now? Say that again.
They're saying because Low Key wrestled for New Japan in this suit and tie, that they're never going to use him again.
I missed that one.
I've always been such a big fan of both of these guys. They pulled out all the stops here. It really is incredible, especially when you see Dutt using a moonsault double foot drop stomp on Low Key. Let me just read what I just said again.
Yes.
Dutt uses a moonsault. We all know what that is. Now imagine if it turned into a double foot stomp. What? Yeah, that's it. The crowd is kind of quiet for it. They popped for the weapons, I guess, in the previous match, and maybe they just needed a let me up match. Maybe the ladies should have been here. No disrespect.
Yeah.
These guys absolutely tore it up. 2 of my all-time favorites. I dug it. What do you think?
Awesome. And I think there was a debate like there is every show. I don't think there was. I'm sure there was on the order of the matches and it being a title match. I believe I wanted it later, you know, and had all the confidence in the world. Also, I think this is one man's opinion. He gave us good marks on this, but I think in his mind, the Full Metal Mayhem probably over-delivered. So these 2 guys going to the ring, he's thinking, oh, this is just an X Division single match. There's no way they're going to follow it. It's his opinion. I get it. But I remember Sanjay and Low Key, they are super good. India, I mean, every time they know what they're doing. It's just that simple.
Next up, we get Sienna and Rosemary to unify the GFW and Impact titles. It gets a star and a quarter. They go 10 minutes and 32 seconds. Gail Kim comes out first. And Rosemary, according to Dave, came out with some weird looking women who were played by local indie wrestlers. They tried to make it look like Rosemary was a star with the entrance, but then the crowd was dead and, quote, the wrestling itself was bad. You know, listen, we got to do something here. We do a belt shot and there's a kick out that gets a big pop. Rosemary's going to go for the mist. Sienna's going to put her hand over Rosemary's mouth. And the idea is that Rosemary blew it and it burned Sienna's hand. And Sienna then put her hand with the mist in Rosemary's eyes and put her in the guillotine. Quote, the finish was clever as far as old finishes went, but it just came across as out of date. Star and a quarter. It's pretty creative. I got to give them that. Not a bad outing, but it's really hard to follow some of the stuff we've seen so far. No,
that's kind of the nature of the beast. This late in the show, also think, was this Gail's very first appearance back into the product?
I'm not sure, but that sounds right.
Anyway, that was a big deal. And in hindsight, you want to go, oh, wait, I sure would like to see her wrestling out there.
Right.
Here's the staple. Here's the trendsetter. Here's, for lack of a better word, you know, one of the 2 founders of the division, if you will, or the founder, you know, just her importance in that history. And, you know, that was the hand. Also, you know, we wanted the title matches to go on toward the end. So the gals worked hard. I think they delivered as well, but their positioning on the card was tough.
You're going to come out next and do what's called your charming politician speech, thanking the audience. Quote, they were lukewarm as far as reacting. He told Lashley and Patron they better bring their A game after what's already happened. And here it is, our main event. Alberto is going to beat Bobby Lashley in 18 minutes and 7 seconds to retain the GFW title and win the Impact title. Alberto came out with his father and his brother, all professional wrestling legends. Lashley, of course, comes out with King Mo and Dan Lambert, who is the owner of American Top Team, and a bunch of the American Top Team fighters, guys you may recognize if you're an old school UFC fan, like Jeff Monson was there. Either way, this is a hell of a match. They're pulling out all the stops. Eventually, as you might imagine, some of these folks on the outside start to get involved a little bit. Alberto's going to post Lashley and pin him after a double foot stomp. And after the match, everybody comes out and is given a hand, and the crowd is maybe a little burnt at this point, but the action was great. 3.25 stars, according to Dave. What'd you think of the match and the execution? You said this was a show you were really, really proud of. You got to have a strong main event, and man, you got two bona fide Hall of Famers here in Alberto and Bobby Lashley.
I can remember before I went through the curtain to go out there, in that, with my, I'll call it my talent hat on, I'm like, all right, I don't want to say anything to really fire the crowd up. They've had a long show at this point. I wanted these talent to over deliver like the rest of the show. I was nervous for them. I had a ton of confidence. We wanted to give this the big fight feel, if you will. And Dan Lambert, literally the owner and operator of the most successful MMA gym in the world and everything that went with it. Young Colby Covington had been at some of the tapings before he shot to superstardom. But Dan always gracious with his time. He's one of your rivals though, isn't he?
Oh, no, we're friends. We've done deals before. He's
still one of your rivals. I'm just
gonna say he is the biggest belt collector in the world.
Yeah. I love Dan. And I thought his promos in AEW going back are some of the best in the history of AEW. But in this case, it delivered, and the big fight feel. And it was to me, me sitting backstage next to Ed, and then I'd go over to the curtain and I'd go to the truck and I'd go to the go position. I just wanted to get the feel of everything. Yes, and I've said this a couple of times, it wasn't a paid audience. It was Orlando, but turning people away and coming from where the brand was not that long ago and knowing the challenges that everybody had been through. I wanted this to be a feel-good moment, most importantly on screen, but off screen as well, that, hey man, this is our jumping off point, if you will. Let's rock and roll from here. We're kind of got to a point now, it's the GFW champions, and let's keep rolling. And look, the Impact name in India and other places, the name of the show is going to be Impact, and it is what it is, and let's keep moving through. But let's do everything in our power to give this Slammiversary the best shot to succeed. And I thought Patron and Bobby were freaking awesome. I think they went out there and worked their ass off and delivered the main event match that we needed, following 2.5 hours of some really, really diverse, entertaining stuff.
When it's all said and done, how happy are you with the finished product?
Elated. I was.
How's Ed and Scott and the rest of the crew?
They're very happy. I mean, we kind of had the sense, I want to say it was our second taping, I think, when LAX got put together in Orlando. And I was thinking through all this, like I said, a couple of weeks ago when I got the first round of notes and I just went through them. I kind of remember that progression, and I don't want to end on a downhill, but, in 2017, October is when I went into treatment. So This is July. So I was about, in my personal space, about as dark a place as I'd ever been. And I don't know how you are about birthdays. I just took another trip around the sun on the 14th of this month. So my 50th birthday. What's the date of this pay-per-view?
Let me look it up again.
I'm just trying to think because there's a picture.
July 2nd.
Okay. I knew my 50th birthday was coming up and family was down and all that kind of stuff. But like I'm saying, from a personal point of view, I was battling, no doubt about it, and knew at this point, didn't know all the details, but knew I'm battling. From a professional point of view, and how tough the years 14, 15, and 16 were, the roller coaster ride, if you will. Oh, this ain't going to happen. Oh no, we've got this deal. Oh no, Fox Sports holding deal, or whatever it may be. And then all this and the India tapings, it was really a good moment. Right to my right in my office is a turnbuckle pad with everybody on the show that signed it. So it's one of those shows that I remember that the definition of a successful show is when everybody comes together. Not everybody loved each other, and everybody it wasn't any of that. And look, me and Ed had at this point had already had, easy by July. We had already had some knockdown, drag out arguments, like, whatever it may be. I don't want to cloud the entire situation here, but we had already had some rough patches in actually May, June, and July. We'd already had some rough patches. And look, I'll take my part of the blame, but for us to come together, everybody wrote, everybody worked their ass off, from production to talent to the staff, and then the fans in the arena. It was a feel-good moment for sure.
You brought it up, so I want at least to ask, were you drinking during the show, or would it start after the show? And was this one of the times where we would have Club JArrett and everybody comes over and it's a big party, or is that old TNA? Not necessarily.
That's old. Yeah.
Karen's with you at this show and the family, right?
Yep.
So does that change your approach to wrestling when you've got the whole family at the show?
When in these times, I got off the plane in Orlando and mentally, well, probably before I got on the plane, but certainly when I got there, I went to work. Yeah. I mean, mentally, was consumed by it because we're producing. So we did this show, and I don't know how many episodes we had to shoot.
Right after. Yeah.
I mean, so all the moving parts and coming out of it, and where the angles going, where the stories are going, where's talent going, all of that. My drinking was after the show, but it was way in excess. So, which just complicated the situation. But no, family was with me, but I was, as you can imagine, like I said, the prior 2 or 3 years before this, and to get this opportunity, I was completely consumed with how do we make this a success?
Well, we're going to pick it up some other time, but next week we've got a fun episode lined up for you. This is one that we've sort of played hokey pokey around, but it's finally going to happen next week. Victory Road 2008 will be our topic next week. And we heard your feedback. Ask Jeff Anything. We'll be back sooner rather than later. But be sure to tune in tomorrow night, Blood and Guts from Boston. If you are in the area, please make plans to come see the show at EWTIX.com. Or if you're on the left coast, hey, San Diego Comic-Con, Jeff Jarrett's coming your way this Thursday. And this Saturday, I can't believe this is real, I'm getting the Gordon Soley Award at the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and you can come join us and be a part. Tickets are on sale. They're only $130. That includes the entire weekend. There'll be podcasts. There'll be live wrestling. There'll be at least a couple of meals, the whole induction, meet and greets. It's nwhof.org. That's National Wrestling Hall of Fame.org. And Bruce Pritchard will be inducting me. So if you like what we're doing on the pods, come support us. Come check us out. That's happening in Waterloo, Iowa this Saturday, nwhof.org. Jeff, I never know what to expect when we click record. I know we went longer than we anticipated today, but it was a blast hanging out with you, and can't wait to do it again next week.
Al, just want to say this. We're buds and like to laugh and cut up, but I'm very proud of you. Good luck this weekend. I'm super happy that I guess in a way, the man who was riding shotgun with you when all of this really got started. I think it's super cool that Bruce is going to be up there. I'm sure He's going to gig you a few times during the induction.
Oh, I'm sure of that.
I'm going to be very upset. But no, I wish you nothing but the best. Good luck. Have a blast. Proud of you in more ways than one. But I think it's super cool. So good luck to you this weekend.
Thanks, man. I greatly appreciate it. And good luck to you. I mean, before I get there, you got to walk through a show called Blood and Guts. And you just admitted in a loud and clear voice here, you ain't scared of no belt. I know Tony Khan listens. I'm just thinking.
Let me ask you, when's the first time you heard the terminology blood and guts?
I mean, I know it's off of the Vince McMahon or the WWE response. You know, that's the reason AEW uses it. We don't do blood and guts. Yeah. But I don't know where it was before that. What were you driving at?
And I'm not sure it's the first time, but always can kind of remember, this is going back to the late 80s. Hey, Jeff, we'd like to get you on the anniversary show. I'm super young. Okay, what do you got in mind? Oh, you're not going to be involved in any blood and guts. Tell your old man you're not going to be involved in any blood and guts. Tell your old man we're not doing this. I worked Ivan Koloff and did a 30-minute draw at an anniversary show when I'm, I don't know, young. It's when the hurricane came through. But anyway, I believe the first time I heard that term was, oh, that's what they do in Puerto Rico, a bunch of blood and guts.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, I mean, as I understand it, the reason AEW started using it is they had blood on TV, or maybe it was pay-per-view, but they had blood on the product. And at the time, it was TV, because WWE was trying to attack their advertiser base. You know, so it was like, hey, you don't want to advertise on that. And so I think from a WWE perspective, and I get where this comes from, and I know AEW people are going to be upset when I say this, but a lot of folks who aren't really, quote unquote, in the bubble, they see wrestling on TV and they just say, oh, that's that WWE stuff. Whether it's AEW or it's MLW or it's Impact or whatever it is, that is a brand that is now so big that you see wrestling, but yeah, Kleenex, Coca-Cola. I mean, Band-Aid, it is what it is. So I think they probably took a really hard stance with some of the agencies and stuff and said, hey, that was not WWE. That is not the type of entertainment we presented. We don't promote blood and guts, unlike other promote or whatever. So that blood and guts, I think somebody in Jacksonville said to themselves, Self, that sounds like a good name for a show. And it's happening tomorrow night, AEWTIX.com. And be sure, if you see Jeff at the San Diego Comic-Con, I mean, if you have a belt and it's on, the sting goes away. Just remind him the sting doesn't last. But the real sting does. And he might be there tomorrow night, AEWTIX.com. And of course, Comic-Con this Thursday in San Diego. And we'll see you next Tuesday right here on My World.
Peace.
Hey guys, Eric Bischoff here to talk to you about my friends over at SaveWithConrad.com. Are you looking to get out of debt? Conrad and his team can make that happen faster than me firing the honky tonk man. Wow. And you know that controversy creates cash, right? Do you know what doesn't create cash? Credit card debt. Save with Conrad can help you consolidate high-interest credit cards and all of your other debt into one low monthly payment. They can even help you get the cash you need for home improvements or anything else. They've helped 83 Weeks listeners save $500, $600, $700, even $800 a month. Seriously, your papers are going to go down faster than Nitro ratings in 2000. Ouch! And how about this? No house payments for 2 months. That's right, no house payments for 2 months. And unlike the dirt sheets, man, the reviews do not lie. With over 1,000 five-star reviews, find out for yourself how much Conrad and his team can save you by checking out SaveWithConrad.com today. You'll be grateful you did.
NMLS number 65084, Equal Housing Lender. Woo!